Unbelievable moments, so convincing you thought they were real. Movies are full of lies, CGI dog poop, fake hair, entire cities that don't even exist. Yep, Hollywood has been fooling us for years. Let's dive into the CGI moments you thought were real, but weren't. So remember that massive explosion in Iron Man 3 when Tony Stark's house gets obliterated? Yeah, turns out that's not actually RDJ's body on screen. See, Robert Downey Jr. broke his ankle mid-filming, which threw the whole schedule into chaos. Instead of delaying the movie even more, the directors got, well, creative. They hired a body double to do RDJ's scenes, then later filmed just his face in a studio and CGI'd it onto the double. Yep, deepfake Iron Man was a thing before deepfakes were even a thing. So next time you watch that scene, just know you're looking at RDJ's face on someone else's body. Hollywood magic at its finest, or weirdest.
I got you first. Like I said, we can't see.
CGI magic. You ever catch something weird in a movie and think, wait, was that supposed to be there? Well, in Shazam, there's a scene where people are running for their lives. Classic superhero chaos. But look real close at the stairs. See that random group just standing there? Super chill, holding shopping bags? Yeah, they weren't supposed to be in the shot. Turns out they were actually crew members who forgot to move out of the frame. Instead of cutting them or reshooting, too expensive, the editors got sneaky. They CGI'd shopping bags into their hands to make it seem like they were just casually shopping mid-apocalypse. Honestly, that's some next level problem solving. Who needs reshoots when you've got movie magic? Digital poo.
Right.
You'd think John Wick was a hit because of Keanu's badass moves or the tight action sequences, right? Nah, turns out the real MVP was dog poop. See, when John Wick's adorable puppy showed up, nobody really thought about the logistics of dog ownership, like bathroom breaks. But there was a problem. The dog refused to poop on cue during filming, and instead of waiting for nature to do its thing, the director made a wild decision: edit the poop in. Sounds funny, right? Until you hear the price tag. That 3-second shot of digital dog do $5,000. Quantum suits.
Round trip each. No mistakes. No doors.
Remember those slick white quantum suits in Avengers Endgame? Yeah, those never existed, pure CGI magic. Turns out the actors were just rocking their usual superhero outfits while filming. The VFX team later passed the quantum suits on top like digital stickers. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. First, real suits would have been bulky, uncomfortable, and plasticky, which wouldn't exactly scream futuristic nanotech. Second, Hulk obviously needed a CGI suit anyway, so they figured why not just fake them all? And honestly, it worked, because nobody walked out of that theater thinking, hey, were those suits even real? We were too busy freaking out about time travel and Thanos' action.
Good luck.
Human to the vampire.
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
Ever notice something weird about Johnny Depp in Dark Shadows? No? Well, let me blow your mind. He never blinks. Yep, Barnabas Collins, being a vampire and all, doesn't blink. But here's the kicker, Johnny Depp definitely did. So what did the VFX team do? They erased every single blink, frame by frame, every single one. And if that wasn't enough, they also had to scrub out his reflections from mirrors and glass because, you know, vampire logic. Imagine the poor CGI artist whose job was literally removing blinks for months. Next time you watch Dark Shadows, try looking for a single blink. You won't find even one.
My name is Barnabas Collins.
Fake tear. Leonardo DiCaprio's acting in Blood Diamond is absolutely solid, no one's questioning that. But here's a little movie magic you probably missed. The tear wasn't real. Yep, in the final scene, when Jennifer Connelly's character listens to Danny Archer's last words, the director wanted more emotion. But instead of asking her to reshoot or forcing out a tear with onion juice, they went full CGI. That single dramatic tear rolling down her cheek, digitally added. Did it actually change the impact of the movie? Hard to say. But hey, if a few pixels of moisture were what tipped the scales of emotional devastation, then mission accomplished.
Okay. You tell me where you are.
CGI City. When David Fincher made Zodiac in 2007, he wanted every single detail to be flawless. But there was a problem. San Francisco in the 2000s did not look like it did in the 60s and 70s. The solution was simple: CGI everything. The city skyline was scrubbed of modern buildings. Downtown was digitally rewound back in time. Even the murder scenes, every one of them were reconstructed exactly where they happened in real life. That meant removing every modern change to match the Zodiac killer's era. And because Fincher is Fincher, he made sure the VFX team meticulously rebuilt entire locations, just so the horror felt eerily real. Lex's face. Jurassic Park is legendary for its use of CGI, but Spielberg, he's a master at blending effects so well you barely notice them. Case in point, that heart-pounding scene where Lex, played by Ariana Richards, dangles from a broken air vent inches away from becoming Raptor Chow. Now, Spielberg isn't about to risk a young actress actually falling. Because yeah, dinosaurs might be fake, but gravity isn't. So they used a body double for the stunt, and she accidentally looked up, and they had to paste Lex's face on the double. And this was 1993, when there was no fancy deep face tech, just old school movie magic. So next time you rewatch it, keep an eye out. But good luck spotting the switch. Spielberg knew what he was doing. Truck flip. Christopher Nolan, being the mad genius he is, decided that instead of using CGI, he'd actually flip an entire semi-truck in The Dark Knight without any tricks or miniatures, just a massive piston buried under the road designed to launch a full-size truck into the air. They shut down a major Chicago street, held their breath, and the truck went vertical. The only CGI was removing the piston that made it happen. That's it. And the result is one of the most jaw-dropping "how did they do that" moments in movie history. So, did you ever think it was fake? CGI face. You know that moment in Spider-Man 2 when Doc Ock sinks into the Hudson, arms outstretched, his final moment of redemption? Feels raw, heavy, totally real, except it's not. That entire shot is 100% CGI. Yep, even Alfred Molina's face. Back in 2004, CGI still had its limits, but this was next level. The lighting, the water physics, the way his lifeless body drifts downward. It all sells the illusion so well that most people never even questioned it. Molina didn't even need to be there. Just a digital double taking one last dive. Crazy, right? Sicario. Sicario thrives on its raw, unfiltered tension, but not everything was as real as it seemed. That nail-biting highway standoff was actually a digital masterpiece. The road itself didn't exist as shown on screen. CGI filled in the gaps. Some vehicles were real, others were carefully rendered. Even the distant skyline and border crossing were stitched together using blue screen footage and digital set extensions. The result was a seamless illusion, blending practical shots with visual effects so subtly that no one noticed. It's the kind of movie magic that doesn't scream for attention, which is exactly why it works so well. E.T. editing. Steven Spielberg's E.T. got a digital makeover in 2002, and while some changes were subtle, one stood out like a sore thumb. In the original, FBI agents blocked Elliot's escape with E.T., guns in hand. But for the re-release, Spielberg swapped out the firearms for walkie-talkies. The reason? Pointing guns at kids didn't sit right anymore. Fans were split. Some appreciated the update, others felt it tampered with a classic. Regardless of opinion, the CGI work was seamless. If you grew up on the newer version, you'd never know anything was altered. A little editing, a whole lot of debate. Star Wars.
Go, my son.
George Lucas is no stranger to tweaking Star Wars, but some changes are so subtle they slip right past most fans. In the 2004 edition of Return of the Jedi, one of those edits involved Anakin Skywalker's face. Originally, when Luke removed Vader's mask, Sebastian Shaw's Anakin had a full set of eyebrows, but in this version, Lucas digitally erased them to match Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin is horrifically burned on Mustafar. It's the kind of change that feels logical in hindsight. If you never saw the original, you'd never even know they were there.
You already have.
Iron Man 3. Love it or hate it, Iron Man 3 had some seriously impressive CGI, and not just for the usual explosions and high-flying suits. Midway through production, Robert Downey Jr. injured his ankle, throwing a wrench into the schedule. Rather than delay filming, the crew got creative. A stand-in performed Downey's remaining scenes while he recorded his lines separately. Then, using digital wizardry, they mapped his face onto the double's body. The result? Seamless. If you didn't know, you'd never guess Tony Stark wasn't actually in the suit for some of those final moments. Black Swan. Black Swan is unsettling from start to finish, but there's one eerie detail you probably never noticed. Director Darren Aronofsky wanted to subtly hint at Nina's descent into madness from the very beginning, and to do that, he made an invisible change to Natalie Portman's hands. In post-production, her fingers were digitally lengthened to appear slightly unnatural, just enough to give a subconscious feeling that something was off. The effect is so subtle that most viewers never pick up on it, but it perfectly foreshadows the disturbing transformation her character undergoes later in the films. But that's not all. Black Swan didn't just use CGI for unsettling visuals. It played a big role in the behind-the-scenes drama too. Natalie Portman trained for a year in ballet, but for the more intricate sequences, a dance double, Sarah Lane, stepped in. Through some seamless digital wizardry, Lane's face was swapped out for Portman's, creating the illusion that the actress did almost all of her own dancing. The effect was so flawless that it sparked controversy. Digital Baby.
Go.
Working with babies in filmmaking is a gamble. No matter how well rehearsed the actors are, a crying infant can throw everything off in seconds. That's probably why Alfonso Cuarón decided to go digital for Children of Men. The moment when Theo Farron helps deliver Key's baby and passes the newborn into her arms is one of the most moving scenes in the film. But that baby, pure CGI. The VFX team crafted a hyper-realistic digital infant, meticulously texturing the skin, matching the lighting to the dimly lit set, and animating its movements to feel as lifelike as possible. The result was so convincing that most viewers never even questioned it. A real baby might have been unpredictable, but this digital one? Absolute perfection.
How is he?
It's a go.
CGI sheep. Brokeback Mountain is often praised for its performances and direction, but few realize just how much CGI went into making the film feel authentic. Animals are notoriously tricky to work with in filmmaking, and wrangling an entire flock of sheep was no exception. The crew had 700 real sheep on set, but for director Ong Lee, that wasn't enough. Rather than renting more, which would have been costly and logistically difficult, the visual effects team stepped in. Using CGI, they expanded the flock to a staggering 2,500 sheep, seamlessly blending the digital creations with the real ones. The effect was so flawless that most viewers never even noticed the trickery. Just another example of how subtle VFX can shape a film without drawing attention to itself. Forrest Gump.
The All-America Ping Pong team. We were the first to match.
Forrest Gump is packed with impressive CGI, from seamlessly removing Lieutenant Dan's legs to inserting Tom Hanks into historical footage. But there's one digital trick you probably never noticed. Aside from being a war hero and a man of wild luck, Forrest Gump also turns out to be a table tennis prodigy. Watching him play, it looks like Hanks must have trained for months to master those rapid-fire rallies. In reality, he wasn't hitting anything at all. Every single ping pong ball was added in post-production using CGI, with Hanks simply miming the motions. The opponent's reactions and ball movements were carefully choreographed to make it look completely natural. The result? A scene so convincing that most viewers had no idea they were watching pure movie magic. Die Hard.
Morning.
Die Hard with a Vengeance might not be everyone's favorite in the franchise, but it does have a sneaky bit of CGI that was absolutely necessary. Early in the film, Simmons forces John McClane to wear a racist sign and parade around Harlem. Obviously, there was no way Bruce Willis was actually going to walk around with that message plastered across his chest. Things would have gone south fast. Instead, the sign was completely blank during filming, and the offensive text was added later using CGI. Given how intense the scene already was, it's a relief they didn't take the risk of shooting it for real.
Hey, Zeus, that's a friend of yours? He looked like a friend of mine.
Digital twin.
Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah.
Cameron Winklevoss.
When The Social Network hit theaters, plenty of people assumed they were watching the breakout performance of a pair of Hollywood twins. Turns out, Fincher had pulled off one of his signature tricks. The Winklevoss twins were actually just one actor. Armie Hammer played both roles, but instead of using a typical split-screen technique, the crew took it up a notch. A stand-in performed alongside Hammer, and in post-production, they digitally mapped Hammer's face onto the double. Sometimes they even filmed scenes twice and overlaid the footage to sell the illusion. The result was so seamless that most audiences never suspected a thing.
We have to.
Why?
We wrote crew.
Gladiator.
Seems you've won your freedom.
Without CGI, Gladiator wouldn't be the cinematic epic it's remembered as today. Digital sets helped transport audiences back to ancient Rome, making the grandeur of the Colosseum feel real. But while most people know that, there's another bit of CGI trickery that flew under the radar: Oliver Reed's final scenes. Reed, who played Proximo, sadly passed away before filming Wrapped. Instead of recasting, Ridley Scott and his team decided to finish his performance digitally. Using previously shot footage, they manipulated and repurposed his likeness to complete his remaining scenes. It's more noticeable today, but back in 2000, most audiences had no clue they were watching a digital recreation.
Are you in danger of becoming a good man?
The Fighter. The Fighter is a gritty boxing drama, so if any digital trickery were involved, you'd assume it had something to do with the fight sequences. But nope. The most seamless CGI moment happens in a bar scene. Amy Adams' character writes her number on a napkin and hands it to Mark Wahlberg. Simple, right? Not quite. Since filmmakers can't legally display real phone numbers, and the director refused to use a generic 555 number, they had to alter the shot in post. Creases were adjusted, Wahlberg's hand was repositioned, and motion blur was fine-tuned, all just to tweak a single napkin. Gone Girl. Gone Girl might not scream CGI-heavy blockbuster, but there's more digital trickery in Fincher's thriller than you'd expect. When Amy is on the run, she ends up at a casino, a location that's barely real. Only the first floor was actually built, everything above it was digitally created. Even her picture-perfect home with Ben Affleck's character wasn't what it seemed. The interior was a set on a soundstage, and everything outside the windows was pure green screen magic. It's the kind of seamless visual effects work that goes unnoticed, which is exactly what makes it so impressive. Tony Stark's hair.
Do you know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else.
Of all the CGI challenges in Spider-Man Homecoming, you'd think animating Iron Man's suit or the high-flying action sequences would top the list. But no, the hardest visual effect, Tony Stark's hair. The scene in question was originally filmed at a different time of day, but when the filmmakers decided to shift the setting, the lighting had to be completely reworked. That meant adjusting not just the environment, but even the way Stark's and Peter's hair moved in the wind. According to visual effects supervisor Lou Pecora, getting the hair to behave naturally while maintaining the actors' performances was one of the trickiest edits in the entire film.
You died. I feel like that's on me.
Triwizard Tournament. I always thought every single audience member was real. Turns out the Triwizard Tournament's final challenge in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire wasn't as packed as it seemed. Filming that scene with a full stadium would have required way too many extras and way too much space, neither of which were available, so they pulled off a little magic trick. Only the first few rows were filled with real actors. Everything beyond that, just a giant green screen. The VFX team duplicated and extended the crowd using CGI, blending it so well that you'd never know half the audience wasn't actually there. Twilight. Breaking Dawn. Part 1 pulled off some serious movie magic to show just how much Bella's pregnancy was draining her. Sure, prosthetics helped a little, but it was CGI that really did the heavy lifting. The visual effects team digitally thinned out her face, arms, and entire body, making her look as if she'd lost a dangerous amount of weight. The result was unsettlingly realistic, selling the idea that Bella was barely hanging on. If you ever thought Stewart looked disturbingly frail in those scenes, well, that's because she kind of wasn't. Forks High. I always assumed they kept filming in the same location, but New Moon had other plans. With a bigger budget and a shift from Portland to Vancouver, they suddenly had a major problem: continuity. Forks High needed to look exactly like it did in the first movie, even though they weren't anywhere near the original filming site. Instead of rebuilding the whole school, they took the easier route: CGI. The cast actually shot those high school scenes in an outdoor parking lot with green screens filling in the background. So while it looks like Bella and Edward are back at the same school, they're really just standing in an empty lot, surrounded by movie magic. Quidditch players. The Harry Potter films were full of CGI, and the Quidditch scenes were no exception. In one of the matches, nearly half the students zooming through the air on broomsticks weren't even there during filming. Instead of putting a massive group of actors on wires or rigs, the VFX team filled in the gaps with CGI players, blending them seamlessly into the action. Sure, it's not the most flawless effect in the series, but considering how wild those matches got, it's impressive how natural it all looked. Probably gave Harry a scare or two. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel soaring through space, her hair weightless in the cosmic winds. It's a striking visual, but here's what you didn't see on set. Brie Larson wore a head cap the entire time. Every strand of hair floating in zero gravity was meticulously crafted in post-production. The VFX team had to ensure it moved naturally, reacting to movement and light as if it were really there. Even the subtle glow from her suit affected how the strands were rendered. It's the kind of detail that goes unnoticed because it's done so well. Proof that some of the best CGI is the kind you never realize is CGI at all. Eye patch.
Was he imprisoned in hell? Then she returned home.
Thor losing an eye in Ragnarok was rough, but dealing with an eye patch in Infinity War turned out to be its own kind of hassle. The thing just wouldn't stay put, constantly slipping during takes. After enough frustration, the crew scrapped the physical patch altogether and replaced it with CGI. Not the most dramatic visual effect in the film, but definitely one of the most practical. Of course, Thor didn't have to deal with it for too long. Rocket made sure of that with his oddly convenient stash of spare body parts.
You're gonna need more than one stupid eyeball. What's this? What's it look like?
Tennis court. The Wolf of Wall Street might not seem like a film packed with CGI, but some scenes got a surprising digital makeover, including that quiet little tennis court moment. What looks like a simple backdrop was actually stitched together in post, blending real-world references with fully digital buildings. Even the actors weren't actually there. They filmed in front of a green screen and were dropped into the scene later. It's not exactly a mind-blowing action sequence, but the level of detail is impressive in its own right. Earpieces.
There's a way for us.
Les Miserables pushed boundaries with its live-sung performances, a bold move that added raw emotion to every scene. But singing live on set meant the actors had to wear earpieces and discreet microphones, which obviously wouldn't fit in a 19th century setting. Instead of opting for pre-recorded tracks, the filmmakers embraced the challenge, leaving the visual effects team with the tedious task of digitally erasing every single earpiece and mic in post-production. It's the kind of invisible CGI work that goes unnoticed, unless, of course, someone forgot to erase one. But if they did, good luck spotting it.
So many questions and answers that somehow seem wrong.
Reviving the past.
All American. Very good, sir. Congratulations. How do you feel?
Forrest Gump broke new ground in visual effects, seamlessly weaving its fictional protagonist into real historical moments. Watching Forrest shake hands with JFK or chat with John Lennon felt unbelievably real, but it was all done with clever CGI wizardry. The team used archival footage, digitally altering mouths and facial movements to make it seem like these icons were actually interacting with Tom Hanks. Given how flawless it looked, audiences in 1994 could hardly believe it wasn't real. And honestly, even today, it still holds up.
They never go to church.
No religion, too?
Skyfall. Skyfall delivered some unforgettable moments, but Silva's shocking reveal might be one of the creepiest in Bond history. When Javier Bardem's villain calmly removes a prosthetic from his mouth, exposing a sunken cheek and unsettlingly misplaced teeth, it feels disturbingly real. His speech even changes, making it seem like his entire face just collapsed, but none of it had practical effects. Every eerie detail was crafted with CGI. The digital work was so flawless that even after knowing it's fake, it still makes your skin crawl. The Great Gatsby. Baz Luhrmann went all out with The Great Gatsby, crafting a dazzling 1920s New York that barely existed outside of a computer. Nearly every cityscape from the bustling streets to the shimmering skyline was digitally created. Take the scene where Gatsby and Nick speed through town. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire weren't actually moving at all. The entire background, the motion, even the reflections in the car windows, all CGI. Even Old Times Square, though obviously a recreation, looks so crisp and immersive that it's easy to forget it's fake. From lavish parties to sweeping city shots, this film was practically built in post-production. Small to big. Chris Evans may have the superhero physique now, but back in Captain America: The First Avenger, his transformation wasn't the result of some extreme diet and workout plan. Instead, the film pulled off one of the most seamless CGI tricks in the MCU. To create pre-serum Steve Rogers, they used a body double for the scrawny frame, and then digitally grafted Evans' face onto it. Every scene had to be carefully adjusted to keep the illusion convincing. Sometimes they even shrunk Evans down instead of using the double. The result? A flawless transition from skinny kid to super soldier, all without forcing Evans to starve himself for the role. Digital world. James Gunn has a knack for blending CGI so seamlessly with reality that we barely notice what's real and what's digital in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. Sure, we expect the alien worlds and space battles to be computer generated, but the truth is, almost everything in the film is. Even the seemingly simple shots, characters standing on a ship or walking through a city, were often filmed in front of green screens. Gunn pulls us into this vibrant, ridiculous universe so well that our brains just accept it as real. It's not just flashy effects, it's clever filmmaking that makes the impossible feel natural. Old Logan.
I don't like guns. Of course. I wish you'd called me.
Logan took a raw, grounded approach to X-Men, but even in this stripped-down world, CGI played a bigger role than you might think. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine had been through hell, and his face needed to show it. While makeup did some of the heavy lifting, digital effects aged him further, deepening wrinkles, dulling his eyes, and making his skin look worn and scarred. And when the action ramped up, Jackman's face was seamlessly grafted onto his stunt double, keeping Logan's every move feeling authentic. It's subtle, but without those digital touches, the character wouldn't have carried the same weight.
Logan, like I asked.
CGI world. Mad Max Fury Road gets a ton of love for its insane practical stunts, but yeah, they definitely gave it some digital polish. That scorching orange wasteland, mostly the magic of color grading, cranking up the intensity to make everything look even more brutal. And those endless desert landscapes, a lot of them were either enhanced or straight up built from scratch with CGI. Even the massive chase sequences got a little help. Some shots were stitched together to pack in more vehicles and ramp up the chaos. Doesn't take away from the madness one bit. If anything, it just makes the whole thing even more of a visual beast. New suit. Apparently, Captain Marvel's hair wasn't the only thing getting a CGI upgrade in Endgame. Originally, she was supposed to rock the same suit from her solo film, but someone realized that while every other hero got new gear over the years, Carol had supposedly worn the same outfit for 25 straight years. That didn't add up. Instead of reshooting, they just digitally altered her costume in post, giving her an updated look without ever changing the original footage. It's a subtle tweak, but once you know, it's hard to unsee. Spider-Man suit. Behind the scenes of Spider-Man, Tom Holland wears a physical suit, but what you see on screen is a polished version, thanks to CGI. Every wrinkle, seam, and zipper is digitally erased, ensuring the suit always looks flawless. Even minor fabric creases that naturally form as he moves are smoothed out in post-production. This attention to detail keeps the suit looking sleek, whether he's standing still or flipping through the air. It's not just about making him look good, it helps maintain the illusion that Spider-Man's suit is more than fabric, giving it that almost second skin quality. Arrival. Arrival is packed with stunning visual effects, but some of its CGI work is so subtle you'd never guess it was there. The towering alien spacecrafts and mysterious heptapods were obvious digital creations, but even the characters' hazmat suits weren't real. Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner moved through those tense scenes without the weight of bulky suits, making it easier to capture their performances and record clean audio. Everything from the fabric's texture to the way it crinkled was added in post-production, proving that sometimes the best visual effects are the ones you never even notice. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.